Some of my peoples one time. What up, what up, what up?
Hey, everyone.
Welcome back. You are listening live. This is Across the Intersection podcast. This is AJ. I'm in here with Eve and Avery.
Hello.
What up?
Welcome back. Thank y'all for rocking with us. As always, you can ingest our illustrious podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and SoundCloud. And please, if you're on iTunes, if you're listening to my lovely voice right now, go ahead and give us 5 stars. Pimping 5 stars. And as always, you can follow us on social media at Across This on Twitter, at Across This One on the gram, Across the Intersection on Facebook. I am at Divenomous on all platforms, DIVENOMOUS.
Go ahead, Avery.
Divine Venom.
Yeah, what's all your social platforms?
Well,
we messed with them last week.
yeah. You know, I'm good on social media.
Cool.
So I'm not really interested in followers and fans.
Yeah.
He's the ghost whisperer.
Yeah, there you go. I'm just not about these robots like that building profiles on me just to sell things back to me. And, the self-validation of having people like my stuff. And, all of that. I'm good on that.
Well, as for me, I need some outlets. I need like a multiplicity of outlets. So Twitter is one of them, and that's E to the V to the E. And, engage with me and with whoever engages.
Yeah, please, what they say, continue the conversation. Honestly, out of all the social media platforms, by the way, did you see the thing that was on, I forget what news outlet it was on this week, but one of the Kardashian sisters, she
goodness. Here we
go. We're not about to go Kardashian.
Snapchat joint?
Yeah. She tweeted about Snapchat, how she hadn't opened it in like weeks or whatever, and they lost like $1 billion in stock price. Their stock price fell by like $1 billion.
By her making that statement.
Because she made the statement and it was retweeted like thousands and thousands of times. And just from that alone, their stock price fell like $1 billion. Now, I just say all that to say because I don't go into all, like, even though I have a social media profile on a lot of different platforms, the one that I really use a lot is Twitter because Twitter's just hilarious. Like, I love going to Twitter because some of the people that put stuff on Twitter, they have got that joint down to a T, and it just makes me laugh because, like, I don't really use the gram or the other. But still follow me, though. Follow me.
That stock thing just blows my mind. It almost makes me think that our economic system is actually non-existent, or I should say intangible, which of course has been determined, however many years ago when gold became or ceased to become the standard. But when the stock because
1972
that wasn't
73.
73.
Yeah.
But still, okay, so a celebrity makes a statement about having not gone on to a social media platform which is in cyberspace. This, like everything, this social media platform is in cyberspace.
Okay, so
and I understand that there's a certain amount of stock.
It's called an attention economy. That's what it is. So
attention economy.
Yeah, that is what social media is driven upon. And so right now, what's happening is they're past fighting for utility. They're just fighting for your eyeballs. Because what it's called user engagement, and there's a metric called daily active users. There's a metric called daily active users. There's a metric called monthly active users, and those are the metrics in which that Snap, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all these attention economy apps use in order to sell ads and justify the prices
of the
to
ads.
Media companies.
Okay.
Snap is located. Do you know where Snap is located?
Snapchat?
Where it's located?
The company's called Snap. They changed the name from Snapchat to Snap. The app is called Snapchat.
What do you mean by where?
Yeah,
physically where the?
Yes,
no, I don't know.
They're located in Los Angeles. So they're not located in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
The reason in which they're located in Los Angeles is because they wanted to be Hollywood adjacent. They wanted to market themselves and position themselves as a media company, unlike Facebook, who is in Menlo Park, California, that markets themselves as a technology company. The reason why Facebook markets themselves as a technology company as opposed to a media company is because if you are a media company, then you are subject to journalism laws and responsibility for fake news. essentially.
Hence
So
all
this
these
is-
fake articles that's been coming on, and Facebook's kind of been able to play ignorant.
Exactly.
So similar to the way that Lyft will say that, or Uber will say, I'm a technology company, so that they don't have to be
Yes.
under the purview of the transportation laws.
Transportation regulation. Yes, exactly. So again, this is all driven on the attention economy, and you have a app like Snap or Snapchat, so a company like Snap and an app like Snapchat that was given, I think it was given $3 billion, either $3 billion or $30 billion, something. It was a three something bill with a B, in order to allow their business to operate, and but their whole entire market is focused on teenagers, basically one generation, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. There was a Pando article written about it by a lady named Sarah Lucy. So when you have somebody like Kylie Jenner that doesn't log on and then announces it, that's going to affect their bottom line, because their whole thing is built on being trendy.
Is there going to be some sort of legal recourse? Because I think that Kylie Jenner just said, "No."
I think she
I'm
was just
gonna
making a
make
statement. Yeah.
What do you mean legal recourse?
Yeah, can the company come back and and sue for, for that type of statement, even though she kind of said it willy nilly?
If they signed a contract with her, absolutely.
But they probably.
But
didn't.
they probably. I mean, if they signed a contract with her that stipulated that you can't do anything that harms the negative price of this company, something along those lines, then sure, they would.
Which
probably
they wouldn't do, because then they'd have to pay her. She wouldn't have a certain end of the contract as well. So I guess
they could do that.
Okay.
They could. I mean, anything's possible. When it comes to business, as
Yeah.
far as agreements and contracts, and
It's just business.
yeah, it's just business.
People could do anything,
That's-
right? It's just business.
I mean, that is an old public relations strategy of connecting celebrity to products. That's something that's been going on all throughout the 20th century. So I'm just trying to demystify it, because you were saying, you were kind of going, oh, it's ephemeral and it's just amazing, and I'm like, nah.
I mean,
it's
people
all
should be-
tied together.
Well, I think that for me, and I think maybe some of our listeners, people understand the lemonade stand. There's a product or service in exchange for money, but I guess in this case it is a service, even though it's not a physical product, right? That's in exchange for money. We're looking for
It's
what
attention.
supports.
It's attention.
Yeah.
Which will lead
it's
to
not
money.
the lemonade stand. It's
I know.
It's TV, and this is something that people can relate themselves to, like the Super Bowl, like the television model of selling ads. You put a silly show on to get people's attention, and then you run ads on it.
Yeah.
That's the model.
Okay,
That's the model.
gotcha.
So, somebody that is famous, whatever. Not famous to
Famous
me,
for
but
the
I'm
sake
not
of
going to
being
argue
famous.
it. Yeah, she's.
Hey, look, she dropped the stock by $1 billion. so-
I'm not going to argue it. So somebody, for whatever her stripes are, she's famous, and then she goes around and she says something that is detrimental to her market, which is these silly teens. Then it's going to affect the bottom line, because why run ads against that if we know that the queen of teens, Kylie Jenner, who's not a teenager at the moment, I suppose,
Right.
isn't feeling it.
It's just crazy how people
that
should
undermines their marketability.
People should be mindful of that if one person who could unintentionally, right, affect $1 billion worth of stock value of a company, like unintentionally, she wasn't like, yo, I'm gonna wake up this morning and just ruin Snap's bottom
that.
line. Well, yeah, we're assuming that.
Yeah,
but she was
we
just-
don't know that for sure.
Unless
well,
you,
did you wake up with her? I don't
Nah,
know.
brother, I'm married. No, it ain't
What
none
does
of
that mean?
Oh,
Hey,
Lord.
I don't know what it means to you. But
Okay,
I know
I
what it
heard that. All right, cool. Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? But just to make, I think it's more problematic if it is flippant than if it wasn't. Because if it was intentional, right? Like if she understood her influence,
Absolutely,
and was like, yo, I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and because they wouldn't give me a contract or whatever, then okay. But if she said it flippantly and did it, that's actually more problematic, because it's like you stumble into this influence, like you just bumble and fumble into, oh, wait a minute, if I do this, I can affect. So now I can start marketing my tweets or something like that. You know what I mean? So I think it's actually more problematic if she did it flippantly than if she were doing it intentionally. But ladies and gentlemen, we were not here to talk about Kylie Jenner, Twitter, or Snapchat. That was our introduction. because we're professional, I'm going to now segue into our real topic. Nah. But if you have been anywhere on the planet Earth in the last week and a half, you have either been to Wakanda or you know somebody who's gone to Wakanda.
Here we go. You better stop playing. Some people really think
or you've
there's
gone to Hartsfield
real.
International Airport and flown to Wakanda.
Right. I know I got my passport stamped to Wakanda last week and a half.
You folks. All right.
Anyway, I think it was just too big to ignore, but we just want to shout out the Ryan Coogler, Chad Boseman, and the whole Black Panther crew, man. I saw the movie. I normally do not go see movies on the first day because I'm just not into hype. And so normally I don't, but this one I did.
Did you have the Afro pick in your hair? Like what? Tell me how you came. What was your steeze?
Did you have your free lunch program T-shirt on? The Black Panther free lunch program.
No. I just went there.
And some Jordans.
And some Jordans, or the dashiki said made in Taiwan.
Yeah, dashiki's made in Taiwan.
No, we're not hating on folks who wanted to represent culture.
Did you have a Cam Newton Carolina Panthers jersey on?
With like a wide brim hat. Yeah. No, anyway. So I took my two older kids. We went to see it when it first came out. I thought it was a dope movie. It was really one of the things I think that Ryan Coogler did very well is that he made a movie that could stand alone as well as fit into the Marvel thing that they're doing with all the Avengers and all that stuff. I thought that was really good in terms of as a director. That was a really good thing that he accomplished.
He's a very thoughtful dude. He's a very deep thinker, and he comes from, as a director should, comes from all kinds of angles. And like you said, he stayed true to, from most people's perspectives, what the comic that this actually springs from, but then decided to deal with contemporary social, cultural, economic, all kinds of political, all kinds of issues.
And I'm gonna give him a shout out. Yeah. That brother's still rocking his West Coast accent.
Yeah, that was
shout
challenging.
Out, you making millions, and you like, yo, I'm not gonna code switch. Yeah. Like he was doing interviews about his movie. He did a couple videos about his movie. He was like, because we just coming out there, me. I was like, oh, okay, he's still rocking his accent.
Yeah,
okay.
More power to him.
Yeah.
More power to him. Language is continual and
listen, for black people in this country, you gotta sometimes you have to do what you gotta do. So for him to do that and not feel like he has to switch up, I thought that was like, for me, I was like, oh, okay, he's not that dude. Like he's not, what I'm saying? He's like, I'm just gonna be me.
The movie.
Oh, we just gonna go to the movie.
Come on.
There's all kinds of themes.
Even I was talking before we started recording it, and I'd say for me, about 15 minutes in, I realized, okay, wait a minute, I need to start taking some notes.
That's terrible, man. You should have just watched that film and taken notes the second time around.
Well, I haven't been back a second time yet, so because I got to take
I'm
my
ready
wife.
to go my third time.
So you got the
maybe
fire
I'll do it
stick,
this weekend,
right? You got the fire stick.
Just let's have an aside. I want to have an aside about this.
Clock ticking.
Right. No, because you brought up the fire stick, and I saw a brother mention that there were a lot of people saying, yo, please don't pirate Black Panther. Go watch the joint.
Well, one reason is because you need it on a screen.
But no, what he was saying was, shouldn't it be don't pirate any movies? like is it okay? Are y'all saying it's okay to pirate everything else? And they was like, oh, you know what I mean? He's like, nah, what do you mean? So no, we're not advocating stealing. I will go and pay my money and
and pay your $25 other dollars for the popcorn.
Yeah. So, but anyway, about 15 minutes in, and we're not going to give no spoilers because we don't know who's seen it or not. But
come on.
No, let's give the spoilers.
Spoiler
alert.
Okay. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 5 seconds.
No.
Just
throw it in the metadata.
Listen.
Throw it in the caption in the podcast. Just be like, hey,
spoiler.
Oh yeah, we're going to put spoilers in there, but I'm going to give y'all 5 seconds. It's going to be some spoilers coming. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5. Okay, spoilers coming. So 15 minutes into the movie, when he jumps out the little plane to go fight those 3 Jeeps that was driving through the jungle in the beginning that had them people's kidnapped.
Yeah, replicating Boko Haram.
Yeah. And he threw the little things on the car to shut them down. Yeah. I got the Boko Haram reference. What's that? There was another movie that was like that. The Idris Elba movie had those references in it.
Beasts of the Wild.
Yeah. So he jumps out. whips the dudes, beats them up on the Jeep, right? Then he looks and he sees Lupita. He sees her character.
Not Kia. Yeah,
Well,
Lupita, whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, character Lupita.
Lupita's character. And he looks and he freezes, and it was in that moment I realized, okay, that's going to be his love interest. Okay, wow. And then I said, wait a minute.
Okay.
No,
Yes,
and
exactly.
I'm going to tell you, wow. This is when I realized I need to start taking notes. Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to keep it 100 with you. When I saw that, I said, wait a minute. A dark-skinned black woman is the main love interest of this movie. For me, that was like, okay, wait a minute. I need to start taking notes because Ryan's about to go there. He's about to take it there because that's not something you see.
Nope.
That's not something you see.
From black directors.
Or
white.
Or white. You don't see a dark-skinned black woman as the main protagonist love interest.
Unapologetic, no weave, no anything.
Yeah,
she's just black.
She's just an African woman. That for me. I mean, unless you're watching an African movie, okay, yes. But I'm talking about. But I'm talking
when
about
you go
an
to
American.
Nollywood, you see some craziness too. There's always a color differential, even in Nollywood, between the men and the women, which is bizarre.
And that's worldwide. That's Africa. That's India.
Yeah.
But for me to see that, for me, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Ryan's about to take us. He's going there, and I must say, I was surprised that Disney let him do this movie because people don't realize that Disney owns Marvel. And so for some of the liberties I thought he took, I was just surprised. I mean, let's just keep it 100. These studios, they change things to make it more universally acceptable. Let's make it more appealing, to the quote unquote, universal market. So for them to allow him to put this movie out, I thought was like surprising to me.
Well, those things still happened, but you can continue.
Yeah. You think they still happened in this movie?
Yeah, but you can continue.
No, how do you think it happened?
I mean, you had other things. I don't want to interrupt, even though I interrupted. But
we already here.
I'm trying to move
we
already
forward. Here, brother.
Nah, come on, because I got some things to talk.
Okay.
But I don't want to take over the
He's
conversation, so you can go ahead. Continue.
No, I mean, because we chopping up about T'Challa.
One thing that I do want to say, because I want you to continue and I want him to bring.
All right, so you lost your interruption
because
now we're going here.
But one thing I do want to say is that if there was an assumption about universal appeal with black movies, and even though this is a Marvel film, however, it is a film with a mostly black cast. Even if studios have been saying to themselves, there is no universal appeal or global appeal with black movies or movies with predominantly black casts, or that if we do have these types of films, they need to have certain themes that will make them globally appealing. That has been blown out of the water, considering the global reception of this film.
Right.
Even if you just look at videos and listen to podcasts and other things, all over the world, Australia, forget about the countries in Africa, they have been going completely crazy. Europe, Asia, all over the world, there's been a response that says, yes, we will look at movies with predominantly black casts and dark-skinned black women.
Like, I can remember, contrast this with when 12 Years a Slave came out. And I know internationally when the movie was marketed, they were marketing it like Brad Pitt was the main character. You know what I mean? Because of making things more universally acceptable. So for a movie like this, and Disney's an international company. This is not a national Disney is a multinational, multi-gajillion dollar company. So for them to have a movie like this, where it's not very easy, right, to do that. It's not very easy to switch up and try to market something else to make it more universal. I was just surprised.
If Disney or Hollywood in general decides to look at the global or international reception of this film, considering how it looks, visibly in terms of the black cast and the color and the lack of colorism or lack of colorism compared to what we are used to experiencing. If Hollywood decides to go back and retreat to former notions of what will sell, there's going to be a big question mark there, because this film has proved that what they had assumed all along about what the world will look at was wrong.
So what about the story? How did you feel about the story
of the movie?
Yes.
I mean, I thought it was amazing that they had a strong black male lead. Like, he was a king, he was a warrior, he was a superhero, right? He wasn't soft, he wasn't effeminate. He wasn't the sidekick. Like, he was the dude. You know what I mean? Again, speaking literally as well as figuratively, I thought that those were very loud statements.
So what about the story? Because he was all those things in Civil War. But what about the story?
No, I don't think he was all that in Civil War.
What about the story of the Black Panther? What you watched, following the characters, what they were trying to say, what they were doing, the action, the set, like all of those things.
You trying to ruin the whole movie?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, like,
spoiler alert. We already had that.
No, I'm not. This is what I'm doing. Like, I think that we just kind of spend a lot of time talking about the politics behind what could possibly bring this forward.
Well, that's the thing. But the story, like, is always talked about, and I think it makes sense for us to look at it from a thematic perspective. However,
but you didn't do that.
No, we're this is just the beginning of the discussion. So my question, so that's the thing. A lot of people are talking about the story and about the script and about the arc, but I think looking at the themes is worthy, and I think that's what AJ was trying to get into. But if you want us, if you're saying we should just talk about the story the same way that everyone's talking about it, then
I think that what I'm interested in is just hearing like a critical response.
Okay, what is yours? What is your response?
Just trying to. Okay, all right. Well, I guess I'll just go in.
Yeah.
So first, when you talked about the universal appeal, since you brought that up, and how it shattered some stereotypes. Yeah, I would give it that. I don't think that I'm blind to that, but I will say that there was definitely opportunities in which for universal appeal to still happen because it was shorthand. There was white character shorthand with the CIA agent. There was white character shorthand at the end with Bucky, even though Bucky was there for like 2 seconds. But there was still white character shorthand with the CIA operative that was in the whole movie, basically. And so what I mean by white character shorthand is that movies, characters are puppets. And there's psychology that goes into movies and stories. And when they spend a lot of money trying to tell these stories, then they sit around and they try to figure out how can we get the audience to relate to the characters. And a lot of these writers can be very surface about it, and they try to pick things in which that might be relatable or common to the people in which they're trying to sell the movie to. So as far as the Caucasians or the Europeans or whatever, who bankroll pretty much all the Marvel movies, even though to tell the story that is based in a fictional African nation, they still had the CIA operative to be as the shorthand for the Caucasian audience member to be able to peer in and be brought into the world of Wakanda. So I still think that was there. Okay. But just getting directly to the story, and then somewhat responding to what you're saying, a strong black man, I think it's important to understand. It's important to acknowledge that the Black Panther wasn't necessarily like what made him the Black Panther wasn't that he was black. It was that he was Wakandan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have all different kinds of black people out here, but it wasn't that he was black. It was that he was Wakandan, and the movie underscored that through his foil, and his foil being his cousin Eric Killmonger.
Right.
Eric Killmonger being half African American and then half Wakandan. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that. I would say that there was some interesting biblical tropes that were being cycled in the movie, recycled, put to use. I don't know if you all were paying attention or caught that.
Which ones were? Which one comes to mind?
So
first?
There's the whole right hand, left hand that exists throughout Genesis. You have Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, Abraham, Lot, or Abram, Lot. You have Jacob, you have Ishmael, Isaac, Jacob, Esau, but in this you had Killmonger and you had T'Challa, and it was the whole plot device of the birthright, and so nice. So you had the plot device of the birthright. Mm-hmm. And you had T'Challa who had this birthright, and they did this thing called the King's Challenge.
Right.
And so the King's Challenge for people who are unfamiliar, because honestly, most people don't read the comic book. I know that for a fact. Most people
it's an aged comic. That particular comic book is aged, so you know.
Yeah, but I mean, people.
But comic heads would have read it, yeah.
Yeah, maybe not. Black Panther's like a C-list character, but you know, and that's no disrespect to the character. I'm just talking about the emphasis that the Marvel Universe gives to him. But with that said,
but shout out to Marvel, because I mean, most of these guys are C-list.
Well, B-list, yeah. Well, Iron Man's B-list, yes, absolutely. They built this whole cinematic universe around Iron Man. He went from B to A. So, and then obviously Black Panther went from C to A.
They have an infinite amount of stories to tell. Yeah, it's great.
So, but the thing about the birthright, there was a borrowing. There was a borrowing between Ishmael, Isaac, Jacob, Esau. You know, it was just kind of like a mix of that. So you had T'Challa, who was the rightful king, but then they have this thing called the King's Challenge in Wakanda, that any citizen can challenge the sitting king. And if they were to defeat the king, either through submission or through death, then they can assume the role of the Black Panther. So you know, it started out with M'Baku, and M'Baku submitted. That's Man Ape. That's the
By the
dude
way,
from
I'm
the
glad
mountains.
they didn't use that name in the movie.
Yeah.
I think they were deliberate, but even though the
Oh, yeah,
comic
no,
does, the comic does use Man Ape.
but that was deliberate to not refer to him as Man Ape in the movie.
So there's M'Baku, the leader of the Jabari tribe. Then you have who submitted at the beginning, but then you had Eric Killmonger that came in, and Killmonger, or Jedi, whatever his actual Wakanda name is, challenged the king and the king's seat through his birthright. And so I find that interesting, because it makes me think about, you know, well, like who is the son to rule, so to speak, based off of the birthright of the line. And so you have Ishmael, and then you have Isaac, right?
Yeah.
And so Ishmael was the son that through the engineering of Sarah to be like, you know, well, if Elohim had promised us that we were gonna have children, then you know what? I know I'm too old. Why don't you take, you know, Hagar? And then this is how it's going to happen.
And Abraham didn't protest.
Right? Yeah. And what was interesting about that is that
your wife letting you cheat? Would you protest? I'm just saying, you're like, what?
Well, I
you
mean,
let me step out in the name of love.
You could debate if it's cheating back then.
Well, you know what I mean.
You could debate if it was cheating, but
he put the R. Kelly on and was like, dun dun.
For those who can't see, he is dancing.
Yeah. So he had Ishmael, and then the Lord revealed to him, like, no, this wasn't actually who I was talking about, but spoke directly to Hagar and said, look, I'm still going to take care of you. You know.
Right.
And anyway.
So then you would say that the Eric Killmonger and T'Challa relationship is that Isaac, Ishmael,
Jacob Esau it was a play. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And maybe the fratricide that happens with Cain and Abel. I don't know if it's considered fratricide when it's cousins, but you know,
you can
similar. It's close enough.
Yes, yes, absolutely. There was death resurrection that was happening in the movie. But I just wanted to bring. I saw that trope be played up. But the role in which that Eric Killmonger played was the role of well, I hate saying, you know, he played the role of the diaspora. Diaspora sold into slavery and then trying to follow his roots back.
Yep. That relationship was the relationship of Africans in the diaspora and native Africans. That contrast was very evident in the movie.
Like, why didn't you come for me?
Yeah, like, where were you? Even in the beginning. Remember in the beginning when his father was in L.A. and he was like, we have the weapons and we have the technology.
He was in Oakland. Yeah.
Okay, so he was in Oakland. He was on the West Coast. And he said, you know, we have the technology and the weapons. And that was 25 years ago.
Prior, yeah.
Yeah, to say, hey, we can help these people. Why don't? And the response of the king, the previous king, T'Chaka, was like, no, we just about Wakanda right now. Like, we just here for Wakanda.
And from an African perspective, they see that the continent has been raped and pillaged, and raped and pillaged again. And they're like, oh, okay, so we also have mineral wealth, or not mineral in this case, but natural resources. how will we be treated? Will we be treated just like the rest of the continent that has been raped and pillaged and considered savage for not doing what the rest of the world would do with that natural resource? So do we just hold it close to the chest, or do we help our people globally with this resource?
They had a strong culture, is what it was. And this the gentleman, the brother to Chakaka, Killmonger's father, sold Wakandan technology to a terrorist. He sold it to Ulysses Claw.
Yep.
Right? He sold it to Ulysses Claw. So I could see T'Chaka having issue with that level of undermining. And so you do have issue with that. Now overall though, they Wakanda had a strong culture, and so to what it was you was bringing up, Eva, what you kind of hinted at is that, we seen what happened to our neighbors and the devastation and the pillaging and the empirical rule that took place all around us. We don't want them problems. So
they just circle the wagons and
yeah. So that's one thing, right? And this whole hiding in plain sight stuff, them having a strong culture, not wanting to deal with the colonizer, right?
Yep.
No different than China, who doesn't call themselves yellow. No different than Japan, who doesn't call themselves yellow. You understand what I'm saying? They don't go by a color. They go by a line. They go by a seed. And
so you're talking about bloodline, as opposed
yeah, they go
to
by a house,
melanin.
They go by a clan, yeah, like that. I mean, that's historically how human society operates. But when it comes to this current empire that we live under, as far as the Caucasian, the European rule, but specifically white European, because there were non-white Europeans and are non-white Europeans, we are told that we are a color.
Yeah.
And so that's a big level of undermining that has taken place with us, that did not take place with the Wakandan.
Because there were several tribes within that country, but they had they preserved their identities, and even the Jabari tribe, so people at least knew who they were even within that society.
Right, and they didn't call themselves black.
Yeah, of course. They didn't have the context that we have. Yeah,
exactly. They didn't need to do any of that. Right. Yeah. But I would say overall there was some interesting and entertaining things about the movie. I think that there was some plot holes. There was a big plot hole with the King's Challenge, and this is why I wanted to
which one? The second one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, there was a plot hole with Killmonger's King's Challenge, and that was that he won.
Yeah.
The plot hole was that he won fair and square. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you caught that. Did you catch that?
I
might have.
Considering that T'Challa lived, did he win fair and square?
Here's the thing.
Because there were two. Remember, two things, right?
T'Challa never submitted.
Yeah, they'll either relent or submit or whatever it is, or they will die, and he did neither.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, in the fight, remember, you get detoxified. You drink the little juice, and then the heart-shaped herb, the powers of the heart-shaped herb comes out. So you just a regular dude at that point, right? Got to move by your own wits. They had weapons, and Killmonger swung his sword, and he almost killed T'Challa, and then Zuri jumped in.
Right.
And Zuri stuck his little spear, thing, and blocked the joint. So that should be, now look, I ain't read the latest rules and guidelines of the King's Challenge.
But that should
I'm pretty sure
be allowed.
That's not allowed. So that's one part of, you could debate that's corruption within the family. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that Killmonger threw T'Challa off the cliff, right? So the T'Challa's family had traveled to the Jabari tribe spot, and then found out that they had his body
on ice,
right? And so what happened? Did he just happen to wake up? Oh, he wasn't dead. Did that just happen?
No. They had to give him the potion.
Boom! They gave him the heart-shaped herb to resurrect him because he was pretty much dead.
Yeah.
I mean, he was dreaming. He was talking to his father. He didn't know where he was. So, but and his father was like, "Yo, come hang out at the tree. Come on over to your ancestor." He was like, "No, I gotta go back." So he was about to die. The only thing that brought him back. Now you could debate me, and that's fine. But I would. Based on that story, based on what we saw, the only thing that brought him back was that heart-shaped herb. The heart-shaped herb that he was not supposed to have.
Well, during the fight. Yeah.
But it was still, I mean, if you use the heart-shaped herb to survive.
I see.
Like,
so he would have died, basically.
Yeah, he would have died.
And then Killmonger would have been the rightful heir. And they would have kept on moving.
And so now I'll say this. Killmonger's reign, however short it was, and he found someone to braid his hair. I don't know if you caught that. I was like, okay. So
no, I didn't see that.
Wait, like, look, while I'm here, let me go ahead and get the official.
Yeah, let me get one of these.
Let me get the real.
Dora Milaje to braid. Shuri, come over here.
Come here, girl.
Yeah. So anyway, he was like, okay, we're gonna use Wakandan resources to liberate, the look, for all intents and purposes, let's just say the African American and the Caribbean, because I don't know where else he was about to go.
England, France, other places where we are.
Let's just say
in the diaspora.
He was about to fly out here and attack the police or something. I don't know, but
that's what it seemed like.
But
think about that joint for a second.
We're just gonna go buck wild against the
colonists. That joint was so that's
part?
that's the black people that America is scared of.
Yeah.
Like, that's straight revolution. He's like, he was literally sending ships
to
go attack countries.
But you're also turning into your colonizer. That was the thing that, was scary from the perspective of the Wakandans about Killmonger.
So I the whole turning yourself into the colonizer thing, I think is, you're right. That was a term that was used in the movie. I would more so make the argument that strategy just seemed quite unsustainable.
Of course.
Because I don't know how many ships they had down there.
Now you got a point. Because it's vibranium supposed to be the most powerful thing, and maybe just maybe that he could liberate the African across the world. But my thought behind that is that empirically, and by empirically I mean through empire, that's just like,
you mean imperially.
Empirically, whatever. But
imperialism,
not through kingdom. No. I'm talking about the step after kingdoms.
Okay.
Kingdoms come together, and you have an empire, and we are under a Caucasian rule, a Caucasian empire.
Yeah,
it's just like, I don't see, like, where we are right now is cyber warfare. Now the gun backs the dollar for sure, but it's just, I can't really see like this small nation. Now I know they got the power, they got all this extraterrestrial power through the vibranium. I didn't really see a real plan. I just saw like, let's just fly some of these ships out.
You saw an angry person who just was going buck and saying, look, and because, of course, but it's but that's another hole, I think, just in terms of character development. And I think the character development in this film was great. I liked the film a lot. However,
we know
with someone,
you went back twice.
And I'm going back a third time. But anyway, because it's amazing. You get more and more every time you go back. But my point is that the character development with Killmonger, he is a trained operative. He has intelligence training. He has strategic training, but for some reason, in this case, he just wants to go buck wild on the rest of the world.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know. Somebody might think deeply and say, well, his emotions, have the right from time to time to overtake his training, but it is inconsistent. What did they say about his background? When he finally left Oakland, he went to MIT. He was in the CIA. So
he was on the field.
But listen to something
and all of a sudden he's going to be like, Iraq. I don't have any plan. Let's just go buck wild on the rest of the world.
But I don't think that, because something that the CIA operative Ross said twice. I don't know if y'all caught it in the movie. He said it 2 times. He said, "Oh yeah, he's one of ours." He said it twice, and I think that was specific by Ryan Coogler to talk about the African in the Caucasian Empire. And specifically contrasting that to a native Wakandan. Because when they asked about him, who is this cat? Oh, he's one of ours. Then they talk about it later. Yeah, because I told y'all he's one of ours. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. He's purposely made that statement. That wasn't casual statement. He's making a statement that these people in the diaspora, they ours. Like they're not y'all, they're ours. And so I think that's something else, because with the African American or whatever people in the diaspora, that resentment, that wrestling of different cultural perspectives, I think is played up to a good degree in the movie, because even at the end when he dies, he doesn't even want to be buried like a Wakandan. He's like, no, throw me in the ocean with my ancestors who thought that death was better than, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think too, he left it open-ended, and by he I mean Ryan Coogler left it open-ended, like, there's still more, healing that needs to take place, more reconciliation, whatever it is, it needs to happen, and it has not yet
died
happened.
in the movie. So I just want to say that you died. As far as the shorthand, remember I talked about shorthand at the beginning. The shorthand that you would look into that movie and then relate to most immediately being part of the diaspora, you died. He killed you. T'Challa killed you.
But also Killmonger allowed, because Killmonger had two options, and of course he said, why would I allow you to have me survive just for you to jail me? But still, there's just something about Killmonger that made him say, I prefer to die just like this, looking at this sunset, rather than seeing what will come.
Well, I certainly thought that was a poetic statement. Throw me in the water with my forefathers. I thought that, and let me see. My father promised me the sunset was beautiful. I thought that was certainly beautiful. But I also see another interesting turn of events there, and that is, why is it that T'Challa gave his blood an option to live or die, but when Ross got popped at the beginning of the movie, he just gave Ross one of his little healing beads, as opposed to, like, he didn't give Ross an option to live or die. He just saved him and then brought him to Wakanda. Because he brought a colonizer to Wakanda,
but because he saved the life of
remember he jumped in front of a bullet for his girl. I mean, that's like unspoken right there. It's like, nah, bro.
I missed that part.
Because remember when they busted, they was getting ready to shoot her. They was getting ready to shoot Lupita, and he jumped up and he got hit.
Oh, I missed that part. I thought he just got. I just got caught up in the fire.
Okay. But I think to sort of wrap the Black Panther discussion, it is a really good movie, y'all, and we really, definitely, obviously, you can tell by our discussion. Encourage you to see it, but do remember that Wakanda is not a real place, so you can't really go there.
Whoa! Yeah,
let's talk about that.
This right here.
Hold on. I'm not done. Relax, brother Malcolm.
By the way, we can stay
Jobs.
By the way, we can stay on this topic anyway. We can stay on this topic. Go ahead.
I just wanted to
hit me with the Steve Jobs one more thing. Okay.
Because I wanted to just tell people that what some of the real African countries that inspired Wakanda.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I know I appreciate everybody's enthusiasm, but because some people sent out this thing, it's like, you can learn about Wakandan history, and they sent out this whole curriculum. It's like, y'all, Wakanda's not a real place. Go learn about real African countries.
Yes. And not just countries, because those are contrived.
Come on.
But really the ethnicities.
Pull out that big joke on you.
The ethnic groups,
kingdoms.
Because it's funny. Chad was on Breakfast Club, and they were talking about
Chad. You mean Chadwick?
Yeah, Chadwick Boseman.
Okay. You watching the Breakfast Club, bro? Okay.
It was a link somebody sent out, and he was just talking about. Now I was about to give you a shout out.
All ye faithful.
Now I was about to give you a shout out. Here you go, breaking that down. He was talking about African ancestry. I was like, oh yeah, Avery brought that up, but I'm taking that now. You
African
don't get
ancestry as opposed to ancestry.com.
Yeah, because Charlemagne was like, yeah, I went on, and he's like, nah, you should go to African ancestry. And he said because 21st century borders were drawn by Europeans. And he's like, when you do African ancestry, you learn about the different ethnic groups within those countries. So, like, Eric Killmonger's mask was inspired by Igbo. It's from Nigeria. Angela Bassett, she's T'Challa's mother. She was the queen. Her headdress is inspired by Zulu, the Zulu tribe of South Africa. Mm-hmm. The Basotho blanket that was worn by, what's the brother's name from Get Out?
Oh,
Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah, I love.
That's inspired by the Lesotho people of Southern Africa. Go learn about those countries, y'all. the Dahomey Amazons, but that's not really their name. That was a name given to them by Europeans. It's actually based on the Ahosi from Benin. That's the real name of those female warriors. Yeah, the Dora Milaje, which were the fictional female warriors, but it was actually based on a real all-female fighting group from the Benin Republic called the either Ahosi or the Meno, M-E-N-O. All right,
military unit.
Yeah, the lip plates. That's also inspired by Eastern Africa. So if you go to places like Eritrea, Ethiopia, you'll see that. The neck rings, you'll see that in Zimbabwe and South Africa. The flowing robe that Zuri, that's Forrest Whitaker's character, was wearing, you'll see that a lot by men and women in North and Northwest Africa, obviously more desert. People in the desert wore those types of flowing robes. You could go to Namibia.
So in the desert, like Mali, the Hausa, Fulani, all of that.
And then you saw the paste and clay that some of the women had on their braids.
Yeah.
And that you'll see that in northwestern Africa, places like Namibia. You'll see that.
That's southwestern Africa. They neighbor South Africa and they neighbor Zimbabwe.
Well, this the article I was reading said that it was in places like Namibia does that as well.
Yeah, that is Namibia.
I didn't know about Zimbabwe.
No. Namibia borders South.
Oh,
Africa.
you were saying Namibia.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were saying no.
That's the Himba people. That's
yes.
And
you're exactly right.
They put themselves in red clay, and in fact in Namibia, which was colonized by the Germans, I think they have a place called Shark Island, and that is a memorial. And that Shark Island is actually where where the Germans practice strategies on people that they ended up using in the gas chambers on the white Jewish
and so,
population.
Folks, that's Namibia, not Nambia, as our current sitting president would like to pronounce it. That is Namibia. So that is I say all that to say.
Zambia and there is the Gambia.
Correct.
And there's Namibia. Yeah.
So I just wanted to encourage you, if, I understand people's zeal to want to build up Wakanda into a place that it actually is not, but go out and learn about the actual African cultures and the actual African countries.
Well, yeah, and I just kind of want to also say that when you look at the map of Wakanda, which is available in Black Panther issue #1, like the latest Ta-Nehisi Coates stuff that got canceled. That got canceled, by the way. It's not good. But anyway, no, not the canceling. The canceling is good. The story wasn't a good comic book. Reggie Hudlin, shout out to Reggie Hudlin. Great Black Panther series from 2008 and all of that. Love that series. Okay. But this new joint, nah.
Anyway, you should stick to fiction, to nonfiction.
Stick to Twitter or whatever. Yeah, stick to the Atlantic. Between the World and Me. Yeah, that's just
nonfiction.
Yeah, there you go. But anyway, there's a kingdom in Central Africa called the Matapan Kingdom of Matapa, or really the Mana Matapan Empire. The Mana Matapan Empire, it ruled from the 14th century all the way to the late 18th century. And the Mana Matapan Empire, for those who are not familiar, you hear this term empire. An empire is comprised of kingdoms. There are many kingdoms comprise an empire. So you have a paternal kingdom, or your central kingdom, and that kingdom then overtakes other kingdoms. Yeah. And those other kingdoms pay tribute or tax to a king of kings, so to speak. And that is what that is where you get an empire from. And so the Monomotapa Empire, again, it existed in just about Central Southern Africa, what we know now, Central Southern Africa. And it included 16 kingdoms, 8 on the east and 8 on the west. And the reason why that empire fell, which all empires...
Was that where Great Zimbabwe was?
Yes.
Or? Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Ruins in Africa. Everybody goes to Europe for ruins. Africa, of course, has even more amazing ruins.
There you go. Yes, the Great Zimbabwe was the capital of the ancient Monomotapa Empire. And so the Zimbabwe that we know now is an effort to restore the legacy of the Monomotapan Empire and the Matapan people and the Ngabu and all other people groups in that area. Ngabi, by the way, I find it interesting that Robert Mugabe, the former prime minister of Zimbabwe, his name is Mugabe. But the ancient peoples were Mgab. So I thought that was that was interesting. That
it could be a derivative of it.
Absolutely. And so people need to be aware of those things. The empire fell through because they didn't necessarily they didn't look at themselves as black. They were, I was this and you were that, and they were not able to sustain because they warred against each other. But there was also discord that was incited by the European. So now that's you have modern day Mozambique there. You have again
Zambia's over there too.
Zimbabwe, Zambia, Lesotho, South Africa, Namibia. The Monomotapan Empire was in those areas prior to when these lines were drawn.
And that's something that I really hope that this film does, because I'm getting goosebumps and my leg is shaking right now because of what you guys just talked about.
It was
the history, and then what you just talked about. We need to understand, and I've been taught this my whole life, only because, the baby boomers, a lot of them, my mother and my aunt included, went to Africa. Every generation we have, some sort of reawakening. And for some reason, it doesn't seem to sustain through the generation. But, my mother, a few years before I was born, came back from Africa and saying, I saw people who look like my aunts and cousins over there, etc. But my point is, hopefully, with all of the different cultures on display within Wakanda and the different cultural artifacts that were borrowed from, hopefully people will say, wait, let me learn more about this amazing continent. Africa is, yes, rich in mineral wealth and rich in natural resources, but the best natural resource is the people and all of those rich cultures and heritage. Even if you don't go, Henry Louis Gates just made this amazing PBS series. I forgot the name of it, but it just came out last year.
Finding Your Roots.
No. This is really about African history, great African civilizations, or something like that. And you can just go on, your TV and see it. But he talked about the largest city in the world being the city of Benin, which can be seen, from miles and miles up, more than the Great Wall of China was able to be seen. He talked about
there's actually a longer wall in Benin.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the borders and the infrastructure of this city. Which exceeded everything in the world. Yeah. Of course, we know about Mansa Musa, the richest man in human history. And we talked about things related to Great Zimbabwe, etc. So the thing is that Africa just is too rich and should be, because it's the cradle of mankind, to be ignored and to be disregarded. A landmass is 11 million square miles. It's like, we should know more about it.
I think that's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful backdrop and foundation. But let's not leave it there.
Yeah, I understand.
Because I would venture to suggest, everything ain't all good on the continent.
Of course.
Right?
And you just mentioned imperialism as an example.
Whoa. Pre-imperialism.
Yeah, I ain't even talking about that.
But before you
go
I'm
saying
there,
that exists.
Where am I about to go?
I want to just
that
make
existed.
sure that I highlight, because she just said something
just
about the city. And when T'Challa first flew and you saw the skyline of Wakanda, it just reminded me of, I forget the capital city of Angola.
Is it Luanda?
Yes, Luanda.
Yeah,
yes, Loanda. Yes,
yeah.
The most expensive city to live in on the world. And when you look at pictures of the skyline of Luanda, it reminded me of that. Similar to the city size and the perimeter of the cities in Benin, people would be surprised when you find out Luanda is actually the most expensive city to live in on the earth. Right. It's more expensive to live in Luanda than it is to live in New York and London and Tokyo and LA and all of these places. It's on the continent of Africa. And so just want to highlight that, again, learning about things in reality as opposed to just wanting to immerse ourselves in a fictitious nation, which is great. we appreciate the cultural impact of Black Panther and all that stuff. But I think people, the reason I wanted to segue is because people will just do that and leave it there.
Absolutely.
They'll just do that. Yo, Wakanda's dope. Yep. Black Panther's dope. All right.
How can we have our own Wakanda?
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to realizing, it's stuff now that is real that you can learn about, that you can go see, put your feet on, put your hands on, and lay your eyes upon, that actually exists in the world that people are just ignorant to.
Well, so I wanted to kind of, since I thought Eva and AJ and what you're doing, highlighting, putting a backdrop on the continent, I think is great. I just didn't want to leave it there because we have we have this history that's that exists in this book called the Bible. And
what does the Bible have to do with Africa? What are you talking about?
A whole lot. A whole lot. And you have these,
ain't no Africans in the Bible.
You have the line.
Oh, Jesus.
You have the line of the line from Noah and his children, and Shem and Ham and Japheth, and you have Canaan, and you have Shem, and you have Abraham, and Abraham moving to Canaan, and the curse of Canaan is going to serve his brothers, or is going to serve his brethren under the line of Shem and Japheth, and so all those people were dark skinned. They were people of dark complexion and brown complexion. Mm-hmm. They were people of the sun, and so
you're not just talking about the descendants of Ham and Canaan. You're talking about Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
Yeah, absolutely. Got
interesting.
to. Yeah, got to. Because Abraham, he was of the line of Shem, and then then Elohim, the Father, gave him instruction to go to Canaan, his cousin's land, and his cousins were going to serve his line. That's a very interesting story because Abraham's seed had to go through slavery as well. But I bring that all up to say, like, all those people were brown skinned. Were
how you know?
Of
Barbara Streisand is from the line of Shem. How you know?
Okay, let's that's another conversation and another book to read.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
I'm not going to bring up that book right now. But I'm bringing that up to say, like, when we say Africa. Oh, this place is beautiful and blah, 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 woo, woo. And then we just leave it there. That's like saying Canaan's beautiful. You understand what I'm saying? That, who was in Canaan? Sodom and Gomorrah was in Canaan.
Yeah.
That's from the line of Canaan. The Moabites, the Amorites, Lot's children, of which he had with his daughters. All those people come from the line of Canaan. Nimrod, the Tower of Babel, Babylon. All of those philosophies come from the line of Canaan. And when we say black this and black that, and we just leave it at that as believers, that's like saying Canaan this and Canaan that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Human beings get a hold of something, especially if you believe human beings are a fallen people, which the Bible supports. When we get a hold of something, yes, it's not going to be all, flowing, skipping through the meadow. So,
I mean, as a believer, you have a specific line. And so I think that it's just important to be able to appreciate our history and understand where our earthly culture is very important. But this would be a little bit of wordplay, but I'll say our culture is bigger than a continent.
Yeah.
So we're back. So A had just brought up a really good point about how we as human beings have a bad habit of looking back on things historically with rose-colored glasses. And, hey, listen, black folk can be guilty of that when looking at things on the continent, right? But we would be remiss if we didn't mention a pillar in the body of Christ died this week. The great Billy Graham, the Reverend Billy. Billy Graham was 100 years old, right? He was born in 19. Well, his birthday hadn't come yet. Yes, correct. But he was physically on this planet for 100 consecutive years. Sure. He was born in 1918. I know, right?
Before the first war was over.
Yo.
Come
Can
on
you
now.
imagine the things that were not invented when he
Before
was born?
the Great War
It's
was
crazy.
over.
I can just remember listening to Tony Kornheiser. He's a sports commentator, or whatever. Now he's on ESPN, but he was just talking about the greatest inventions of the 20th century, and he was saying how people love to say, "Oh, the automobile or the cell phone." He was like, "Let me tell you guys something. The greatest invention of the 20th century is the indoor air conditioner." Because Tony Kornheiser is probably 70, and he was like, I can remember going to school in New York because he's from New York. He's like, in the early 20th century in New York, there was no AC in the school. So by April, it would be like 1,000 degrees in your classroom. So he's like the air conditioner. So anyway, Billy Graham was born in 1918. Good God, it was a different planet when he was born. But
in North Carolina, he was born.
Yeah, he was born in the heart of Dixie, right? He was down there in the good with the good old boys. But I can appreciate Billy Graham for what he was, right? I can appreciate the man who was a man who preached the gospel, who preached the kingdom, in a time when it's never really popular. Is it ever really popular to preach the true gospel? Not just about getting saved, but about living a life of morality. Is that like living, like living the cross? Is that ever really possible? Is that ever really popular? And not only that, but being a man who was, for the most part, not very political. Now, I know he met with presidents and maybe prayed for them, encouraged them, maybe acted as a confidant or whatever, but he wasn't necessarily out front as someone who was super political. We can compare and contrast that with his oldest son Franklin, who is like super political now. But Billy, I thought, and I can, people like to pick him apart for his lack of support for the civil rights movement and that sort of thing. And yes, he was not out front with Martin Luther King in the civil rights movement.
Lack of public support,
publicly. He wasn't publicly supportive. But I do know that he did go to visit him in prison once, and I know he bailed him out once in jail. He actually bailed out Martin Luther King. So privately, he chose to live out his Christianity a particular way that might not have been, popular with everybody else. But to give you just a glimpse into the kind of person he was, in 1953 in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So again, this is in the South, in the Bible Belt. He chose to not speak at a particular crusade, right? In one of his public crusades he was doing, until they desegregated the venue. Until they personally took down the signs and the ropes sectioning off the whites only, colors only section. Until they did that, the people hosting the event, he refused to speak.
It's amazing. Who are these hosts? This is a Christian event, but you're so steeped in your own cultural biases that even though you have a Christian event, a spiritual event that supersedes culture, you're going to divide people based on skin.
Yeah.
It's just amazing that it even came to their mind.
Welcome to Constantinople. You mixing all kinds of things just to be popular.
Mm-hmm. And so that's what I can appreciate. He resisted that temptation to want to mix, and when
you say mix, you're not meaning mix people of different lines. No. You mean mixing ideology.
Mixing ideologies.
The world with the biblical, with the spiritual, with the. Yeah,
because that can make the water very murky when you mix up cultural ideologies with biblical reality. And we had a 2-3 part show about this last year, and y'all go back and listen to our catalog. But we just wanted to highlight Billy Graham was a great man. I mean, a lot of people are walking and living in the kingdom because of Billy Graham. Is a dude, I don't even know the guy's name, but it's a white guy with the thick red beard, one of the guys on Rapzilla. He had tweeted out last week, his father went to a Billy Graham crusade, got saved, changed the whole trajectory of his family. And he was like, I'm living fruit of the impact that Billy Graham has had throughout the duration of his life. So
yeah. People, this country has a tendency of not really understanding history and context. Context is like, we're allergic to context. We're just very bumper sticker. That's why Twitter works so well. And it's because everything is these short statements, and it's binary. You either agree or disagree. Mm-hmm. And what we have to also take into consideration is that this man Billy Graham, who stood on a platform of biblical morality and a belief system that was tied into something that was greater than him. He was doing that in the face of the psychoanalysis movement. And the psychoanalysis movement, it originated primarily by the writings of Sigmund Freud and the Freud family, to include his daughter Anna Freud. But he also had a nephew named Edward Bernays, who coined the term and invented public relations and modern day marketing and target marketing, all of that stuff that focuses on humans' irrational behavior. The psychoanalysis movement focused on these ideologies of humans are innately sexual. Humans are innately angry and fearful, and either need to be controlled or need to be set, or their animalistic tendencies need to be set free. Those are these two. That was essentially like the philosophies that came out of the psychoanalysis movement. And of result of that, you have the sexual revolution. You have the do as thou wilt mindset, where people feel like they could just do anything and be anything, again, outside of the context in which they live. But Billy Graham, and mind you, all of those things fought against biblical standards. They fought against these higher order precepts, to include usury, which affects our money system. You could look usury up, USURY.
Yeah.
It affects the family structure, about what it means to be a family. It affects what marriage means. All of those things. This psychoanalysis movement affected all of that stuff, and we're dealing with that stuff today. But this man stood up. His legacy came to be in this context. That's not an easy thing to do, because a lot of us out here, we're afraid to say anything
and lose our job.
Yes.
You know, and so, but this man stood up. He stood up to point people toward a morality that was grounded in that was grounded in the teachings and the example of the Messiah. Something in which not many people really do like that. So I just wanted to,
that's
piggyback,
good.
And say,
because how people might listen. There's people out here that might have a hard time, like, stop drinking. And they expect Billy Graham to have done all these great things. Like, yo, but you can't stop cussing folk out. You know what I mean? Like, yo, you chill.
Exactly.
So, I mean, Billy Graham was born in 1918 in the South. I mean, in Jim Crow South. Like, the things in which
you have to do a paradigm shift to even get out from that.
Exactly. Just to step out of
That's the first paradigm shift.
Yeah. So to even do what he did in that time was tremendous. Like Billy Graham did. I was reading an article where Billy Graham did newspaper interviews, right?
Yeah.
Where he would say the Bible does not teach racial superiority.
Well,
that is like a transcendent statement in that time period.
Yeah.
Now you'd be like, yeah, of course it doesn't. But you got to think, 75 years ago, it was preachers preaching white superiority. So when you have this guy who's a big time preacher who would do a interview in a newspaper, because that was the internet of their day, right? And
William Randolph Hearst, but you can continue.
Say what?
He's a newspaper magnate.
Oh, he, but he would be doing interviews at that time saying, no, the Bible doesn't teach that. And, desegregating his crusades and his rallies, those things were tremendous at that time. Now, could he have done more? Of course, but everybody could have done more. And I think similar to MLK, we talked about MLK a couple weeks ago, and we start to pick apart all these little things, right? That's a slippery slope, because you could pick apart everybody as opposed to just honoring the man for what he did. The Bible talks about how trees are recognized by their fruit. And when you can look at thousands of people who can directly correlate their position in God's kingdom through the fruit of Billy Graham, I'm good. Like that's enough. And I think that the Lord himself would be justified in saying to Billy Graham, whenever he died a few days ago, well done, my good and faithful servant, because you fulfilled the thing in which you were called to do. Billy Graham was not called to be Martin Luther King, nor was Martin Luther King called to be Billy Graham. nor are any of them called to be you. So the things in which you might be impassioned for, do not try to superimpose those things on other people, because they may not necessarily be that person's call or that particular person's grace to execute. So anyway, we just wanted to definitely give Billy a shout out. Like I said, great pillar, father, old stalwart of the faith from the last 100 years. And like him, we always work to keep God in the mix. So we thank you guys for rocking with us. As always, this is AJ. I'm AJ. This is AJ for Eve and Avery. We're saying thank y'all for rocking with us. Peace.
Later.
Let's get started, I won't cheat you. Let me set apart who is my people. The ones who set in their heart to be believed.